Hi, this is Maria, and I'm doing another Forgiveness to Love one, and this is part 20. And the title of this one is page 3 of my forgiveness list, and this one's going to be pretty wild. And along with that title, my forgiveness list, it's the subtitles are we're going to talk about Brazil, black magic, voodoo, and fingerprints, among other things. So anyway, it's going to be pretty fun. And then again, I just wanted to let you know that, you know what, I am wearing the same thing that I'm wearing in all of the videos in this series, just so that if you, rather than have to go through all of them and try to find which ones were part of the Forgiveness to Love, you can just look at my clothes and see that it's a black top with these turquoise beads. And so anyway, that's why I'm doing it. So anyway, today I wanted to tell you about some shocking sabotage that you may even recognize that if it's been going on in your life. And because this is about forgiveness to love, you know, I have to include my 3 family members who have relentlessly obsessed to sabotage virtually every aspect of my life, which, you know, and that is the reason why I'm doing this series. It is because there are so many of us who have been living this, yet we don't even realize it's going on. I have to say that I lived decades and didn't have a clue that people were so obsessed with me, that my own family was so obsessed with me. And so yeah, that's why, that's exactly why I'm doing this. And, you know, some say, what's the saying? Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. And that may be so, but you know, in some cases, the price is just too high. And so when people try to not only copy us, but they want to exterminate us so they can be us, that is just too ridiculous. And so, you know, it's one thing and this is not acceptable by any means, but when they copy us and they plagiarize our writing and they thieve our identity, and they thieve so many of the things we have, because they are so brazen that they come right in to where we live and just take things because they feel they're entitled. And so, you know, that just really is, it's just a form of sickness. Actually, it's a mental illness. And it just shows just how low and just how wounded some human beings can be in order for them to not choose and not be able to actually live their authentic self, but in fact want to be someone else, and will go to virtually any length in order to accomplish that, which is quite frightening, actually. And so, and they're walking around on this planet on 2 feet when you think, oh my gosh, you know, this is really a rather, this is just not a healthy way to be. And so they should, you know, anyway, I won't go into that. But their unmitigated harassment, you know, ends up spoiling lives. And so regardless of how much we ignore another's fixation on us, their addiction to us, you almost want to just take a shower with a power hose and just cleanse yourself of it, because it is so unhealthy. And you know, when you are really trying to live a life, a good life, and a life of honesty and loyalty and decency and morality, and and benevolence and kindness and love and all the good things, and then you realize that there are people that actually stalk you 24/7, and they want to know where you are, what you're doing, so that they can basically preempt you. So if you say you're going someplace, they will get there first and try to take what you wanted. It's really very sick. And I think I've mentioned this in one of the other videos, that in fact, it's almost as if when you're driving a car straight, right? And so you look in front of you because you want to see what's going on. And yet, if you've craned your neck and you're looking behind you, you may think that you are winning because you are in front of these other cars, and yet, it never works out, because you'll smack right into a cement wall, perchance, or something else, because you don't win in life by competing. Really, you win by competing with yourself and trying to do the best job you can do, but not looking over your shoulder and trying to outdo someone else. Eventually, it doesn't work out well for you. And so, or them, right? And so it's healthy for us to move forward in life, and to try new things, and to make new memories rather than live in the past. And yet the obsessed want anything and everything that reminds them of us. And that's really very sad. And yet that's not the flattery we certainly want, right? Because it comes from a very wounded space. And so I think what happens, the psychology there, is in fact that they then feel that they are better than us if they have what they have taken and we no longer have it, right? So if they have something that we had, then it inflates their ego, because they feel like they have gained at our loss. Their gain is our pain. And so I think that's kind of what it is. And they want to be who we are, and what we are, and what we've done, and our accomplishments, and then they maximize them in their own ego, with their own ego, and minimize our accomplishments, which is fine, because we don't really care what anyone else does. It's just once it infringes on our security, on our safety, on our privacy, then that's not acceptable. And so that's when we draw the boundaries. And so from whether they want to emulate our the way we speak, the way we look, our hair, our clothing, our fragrance, from the dishes we've selected for our homes, for the furniture, the bed we slept in, whether they want all of those things, the books we've written so that they can put their names on them to say that they actually wrote them. That's just so crazy. The photos and the videos of us, they want to be that person, those characters. And so it's an indication of a very deep psychological disturbance. And so it's a twisted fascination, which is really nothing more than sugar-coated stalking, actually, right? And so I know when I moved to Florida, there were repeated break-ins in my condo. And I guess I can say, they might say, well, they weren't break-ins, they were entries because they took the key, right? And so, but, as we go from forgiveness to love, that doesn't mean that we condone any type of disrespect to anyone else's property, right? And so, and they totally disrespected people's property. Certainly that happened in my case, and that happens in most people's cases. People don't return things that they've borrowed. People destroy other people's possessions and feel no remorse, and don't replace them or whatever. It's just like, oh, well, too bad, So I know that things in my home, when people would be people would enter my home, I would be missing thumb drives. I would be missing photos and my books and dozens of other items, even when I would just be at the gym for a couple of hours. And so, I would actually tell my father, and I'd say, you know what? All of a sudden, I had this on my desk before I left, and I came back and it was gone. And so he'd say, I told you not to leave anything of value in your condo. But it's our home. And so that's our sanctuary. And so if we have to be hiding everything and putting things away, it's really, yeah, I mean, it's hurtful, right? To think that people think so little of you that they can do anything they want within the confines of your own sacred space. So he'd say, I told you not to leave anything of value in your condo. And, your extra key is here. And so she could have taken that, or she's probably made an extra copy of it for herself anyway. And he'd say, if you want to go ahead and change the locks, go ahead. But she'll find another way in. And so we think, oh gosh, that's just pretty sad, right? And sometimes the sliding glass door, I lived on the 4th floor, and so the sliding glass door onto the balcony would be open, and I would always close it and lock it before I left. But so that would be open. That was just kind of a reminder or that was a clue of letting me know that someone was in. And that's a creepy feeling, you can kind of almost, when you walk in the door, you can kind of feel that energy that someone was there. And, I didn't really understand about the sliding glass door because I knew that there were cameras in the halls, and I thought, maybe the little creepos that she hired to come in and take things, maybe they didn't want to be on film. And so, although I know they're pretty good at disabling the cameras in places, but maybe they didn't want to be on film. And so I thought, oh my gosh, you think maybe they go down the front of the building, they go from one balcony to another. I didn't know how adept they were at that type of gymnastics. But let's see. Yeah, it was funny because the unit below me was vacant. And so that's why I thought, oh, well, maybe they're jumping from balcony to balcony. Anyway, another tenant on the 3rd floor told me that she heard all kinds of noises from the unit across from mine, and that was also empty and above hers. And at all hours, she said she'd awaken and she could hear people in the unit above her, which is on the same floor as mine. And I thought that's very interesting because there were 6 empty units that were strategically located near mine. So there's near mine, and then there was above mine on the 5th floor. And then on my floor, there was the one next to mine, and then across the hall from mine, and then across from mine that looked straight into mine. So that was another one. And then on the 3rd floor below me, there was the one next to mine, and then the one under mine. And so I thought, that's very strange now. How in the world, who's got this much clout? Who's got this much power to be emptying or paying people to say, oh, go find another condo because we're using your condo as a stakeout because we want to know exactly what's going on there and from all these different directions and everything. Meanwhile, there were cameras and everything all over. And the apartment building across the street, there were, I don't know, at least a dozen different stakeouts there. And I thought, this is just really ridiculous. But the woman who did tell me that she heard those noises said, let's call the police. So we called the Clearwater police, and I think they came out. And then we didn't really get very far with them because they said, oh, no, don't, there's nothing. We can't do anything if they're, jumping from balcony to balcony. And so we said, well, and then the my neighbor said, well, maybe we should take some fingerprints and then check them with the fingerprints in Maria's condo. And they said, oh no, you know what? You've been watching too many crime shows. We don't do fingerprints anymore. And so I thought, oh, wow. Um, I don't know. I thought they do. But, what are you going to do? They said, oh no, you're just overreacting. And so we said, okay. So I thought the whole thing was, rather bizarre because it seemed as if no one cared and no one even barely listened. And so God only knows what they were doing in those condos, where different people were staying. And so, and why exactly was my family so obsessed? And more importantly, I thought the question is, what do you know that they're afraid you will expose? Because that's really, I think, the $64 million question, really. So is there something that you know? Is there a family secret, perhaps, that you are aware of? And they don't want that known. They don't want that shared. And so therefore, they're keeping really close tabs on you and making your life very difficult so that you are afraid to say this. And I've spoken to different journalists too, and they've told me the same thing. And they've said, you know how many people realize that in fact, their phones are tapped, their computers are hacked, and people are coming in and out of their homes. And yet, they just say, forget it. There isn't a secret that is important enough for me to lose my sense of stability. And so they just give up. Yet in my situation, I realized that it went more, it was deeper than this, because I realized that some of my family members were into black magic and voodoo and what is it? Black magic and voodoo and spells and things like that. And when someone told me that, I said, oh, you must be kidding. Come on, that's a bit much, because I know nothing about that. And so I did remember seeing in 2014, because it was when I was living in an apartment in Belmont Shore in California, near Long Beach. I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting on the floor and I was looking at my computer, and it was around Mother's Day. And somebody she was a friend of mine. Somehow, I guess she had gotten to be a friend of mine because she said she went to high school with me. But I think that was not true. And so she actually wrote, thanks, Scott, and that was the name of my spouse. And thanks, Scott, for your generous Mother's Day present. And she was one that did spells and stuff. And he used to say, oh yeah, I've got all kinds of people working on you. And I thought, oh, that was just more than I knew what to do with. And in Brazil, there was a lot of talk too, but that's South America, and I think maybe that's more accepted in the Caribbean and in South and Central America than we know of here. I think that there are people that are quite adept at that there. But I remember in Brazil one day somebody brought us a plant. And so, I was very grateful and I thanked them for it. And then as soon as that person left, another person that was visiting as well took that plant and said, this is cursed. And they took it and they said, oh, and there's a mic in it. And so they took it and they threw it into like a field. And, I was like, okay. Well, actually, I actually asked why they didn't bury it, but I know nothing about this stuff, because I thought, well, what about the goat and the cows? But some thought that was very funny. I was absolutely serious. But in any event, and then, certain setups, that would say, oh, what astrological sign are you? And And then they'd ask my partner his sign too, and then they'd say, "Oh, no, 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 you people need to be with other signs, And we were like, "Well, thanks, but I think we know what we're doing." And so, and I remember the night the night before the flight back to Miami, I had all my luggage already, and so my phone was stolen, my computer was stolen, my jewelry, my cash, um, um, and then I realized that actually it was the person that had invited me to go to Brazil the first time, and he was actually a minister, and he had helped kind of hold vigil with my mom while she was being starved in that assisted living facility. And he was very helpful. We would pray for my mom, and he actually was one of the people that called elder care and said, we're witnessing a murder here, we need some help. And they didn't even bother to come. They said no. But so yeah, so let's see. I just wanted to tell you that a lot of times we don't even realize that there are people within our circle, whether it's our family or whether it's someone that is a good friend, or whether it's someone we've dated or whatever, that they kind of then join this gang of haters. And that's a term that I find really interesting because I had never heard that term before. And apparently it's very well known that, we have loyal supporters, we have friends, and then we have frenemies who are really enemies that disguise themselves as friends. And then we have the haters. And so I think we realize what's going on when we see how people really, when their mask falls off. And then we can sit back and kind of watch karma do its thing, because we do live in a perfect universe where the energy, we send out can't help but come right back to us. And so anyway, let's get back to the nastiness of what happens in the U.S. with my ex and my sibling and my son, when we couldn't get back into our home. But I did hear that actually there were poverty spells and illness spells that these people my family had paid for, and I was really shocked to hear this. And and what made it more shocking was that kind of out of nowhere, I was having some pain, and I had an ultrasound, and they found 5 cysts on abdominal organs. And I thought, oh, that's really creepy. And so anyway, I think we all need to be aware that darkness is real, and that we need to protect ourselves and really stay away from people that don't have your best interests at heart. I just heard Oprah say something the other day, and she was saying that believe people when they show you who they are the first time. And so, don't just keep going back for more, thinking, oh, that was just, I overreacted, or that couldn't be the case. They're just much too nice and too kind. In fact, people do show you who they are initially. And in retrospect, when we go back and we think about some of our relationships, don't we say, oh, he basically told me who he was. Initially, I just chose to ignore it. I chose not to see it because that was painful for me, and I wanted to see through rose-colored glasses. I wanted to believe that he wasn't like that he was better than that. And so we can't overestimate people. really, and who they are. And so, and then when I think of, I've mentioned that no attorney, would take any of my cases. And so I since understood that, and that was a really revealing situation for me. And so I really couldn't even imagine. And again, that was my thing where I didn't want to believe that was true. And I thought, oh, well, they're just busy, or, oh, this isn't of appeal to them. And yet what I ended up learning is that no attorney was allowed to take my case. And so that was an eye-opening revelation as well. And so sometimes, we can become the target of a network that we don't even know exists, if you know what I mean. And so when we realize that when we call people and they ignore us or they don't return our calls, sometimes we just excuse them. But in fact, if we aren't important enough for them to return our call, then that's a red flag too. Then why waste our time when there are so many good people out there who would love to hear from us, right? And so the crimes are so obvious, and behaviors are so obvious when we just look at the facts rather than how we would like to perceive those facts, or exactly how we would like to perceive those facts. And so I know my family thinks it's very funny that they actually use my money against me. And so everybody's entitled to their own warped sense of humor. And I personally don't find that the least bit humorous at all. In fact, I find that very depraved, really. And yet, when you realize that your own inner circle can really wish you so much ill, you just have to just keep going. Just find better people, find your tribe, look for people who have your same values, and you'll be able to find them, and surround yourself with people who deserve you, not for people whose validation you are craving, because that just never works. We're always left in a deficit situation then, because we're giving, we're looking, we're hoping, we're seeking, we're praying. And really, if we have to work that hard for someone to show us how much they respect us and how important we are in their lives, then we need to let those people go. So in terms of what's going on now with the planet, and we are so overcome and so overwhelmed with this spiritual warfare, that it's actually, I don't think that there's been another time on this planet where it's been to this degree. I think we are reaching the pinnacle, and from there it can only get better, because there is so very much warfare going on. There's the darkness is just surrounding us and trying to suffocate us, actually. And so when we have a knowing that there's a power so much greater than that darkness around us, then we can rest assured that in fact we shall prevail for sure. In the words of Martin Luther King, and in the words of John Kennedy, and in the words of other great heroes of our country, that we stand in your truth and do the best you can, and don't cower, and don't give in, and have that knowing. I remember Oprah said that one thing just a couple days ago when I heard her speak, and she said something like, when I walk in a room, it's not just me, it's me and 10,000 ancestors. I hope I'm not paraphrasing that in a way that isn't accurate, but it's her and her lineage and those ancestors behind her, and so that is just so awesome. So behold that, and know that that's who you are. You are not anyone's punching bag. You are not this insignificant human being on this planet where all these dark forces are there. Stand in your truth, take your power, and know who you are. And then you shall prevail. You cannot not prevail, right? And so you're protected in this battle of light versus dark, which is so difficult right now. But we will get through it. We are getting through it. And so anyway, I have more to say about all of this as we continue to part 21, because this is part 20, in Forgiveness to Love. And that's, stand in the truth of who you are. And you have so much more power than you ever imagined, and that you ever are imagining now. And so don't let anyone keep you off track. And there is no darkness that can touch you when you are aligned with your truth. And so thank you for being here with me. This was kind of a difficult one because, and maybe there's like some things going on here, and that's kind of propelled me in order to get this message out to you. And so anyway, just have an open heart, open your eyes, and know that that you are on the right track to your own awakening. And so with that in mind, I just want to tell you that I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.